When I hear young blacks, or anyone for that matter, talk about systemic racism, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I want to laugh because it's such nonsense. I want to cry because I know it's pushing untold numbers of young blacks into a dead end of self-pity and despair. Instead of seizing the amazing opportunities America offers them, they seize an excuse to explain why they're not succeeding.
Well, that was Dr. Carol Swain talking about the myths and dangers behind critical race theory, an issue we continue to see further divide our nation, sadly. Joining us now is Dr. Carol Swain, retired tenured political science professor at Vanderbilt University and distinguished senior fellow for constitutional studies at Texas Public Foundation. Dr. Swain is also the co-author of Black Eye for America. Dr. Swain joins us now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So would you say that most people in the black community agree with what we just heard you say about systemic racism in America and critical race theory?
I would say that most average blacks know that America is a land of opportunity and that the black voices we hear in academia and on the media, they're not representing the rank and file. But the messages that are coming through academia and now to the children in K through 12, those are the negative, self-destructive messages that will mean that this generation and other generations will not have the same opportunities that I had as a high school dropout, one of 12 children, a teen mom and a wife who was able to get a high school equivalency, go to a community college and get the first of 5 degrees, graduate with honors, become a tenured professor at Vanderbilt and Princeton universities. I've lived the American dream. I've always loved my country, and I knew that if I worked hard, I could change the circumstances of my birth. Young people are not getting those messages today.
So I guess the question I have for you is, there's still racism in the country, right? And so where's the line between making sure that we acknowledge that there are still some bad apples and making sure that people don't feel like victims?
Well, first of all, I don't believe that the racism that remains is systemic. I was born into a system of systemic racism in 1954. I watched that collapse with the passage of 3 major civil rights laws. The racism that exists is individual racism, and it's on all sides. And so I reject this narrative that only white people can be racist, only white people have an obligation to be anti-racist. We all have an obligation to be anti-racist. And the racism that exists now, I mean, a lot of it is against white people. And for blacks and other minorities, there's not been a better time to live.
Well, and I think that's the point, is that there are bad people, but I agree with you. The system is not inherently racist, in fact, right? So the point is, how do we distinguish, and I think you said it better than I did, thank you, is how do we distinguish the fact that there are bad people who believe in bad things versus a system that is not out to get you and, in fact, gives people like you the opportunity to rise through the top?
Well, Sean, a lot of the, quote, racism that gets reported turns out to be hoaxes. And there are not enough white supremacists or white people willing to engage in hate crimes for that to be the genuine story. Almost every time it's investigated, it is a hoax. And so that should tell you a lot about America. And I think that we have to invent racism now, and that racism was on the decline before the election of Barack Obama. We were moving towards a colorblind society. We were talking about being a post-racial society. And what happened was the Marxism. It has divided us on many different fronts, and that's our real enemy.
Let me ask you this, because you talk about being colorblind. I only have a little bit of time left, but you have Martin Luther King, someone who said we shouldn't judge people by the content of their character, by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, rather. And now we have some college campuses who are segregating their dorm rooms. It seems like people want to look at color now mainly, and that the black community is almost for that in some ways. Where is the disconnect? Only about 30 seconds left for you.
Well, the segregation on college campuses, that's been going on for a long time. And now it's, affecting K through 12. It's totally against the Civil Rights Act. And so we need to push back against it. And the black people that are pushing for it, they have to be lazy, because my generation wanted equal opportunity and non-discrimination. We just wanted to show what we could do. What happened to that? Blacks are buying into the narrative that they are inferior, and that comes from white progressives. White progressives are the enemies of black people and other minorities.
Dr. Carol Swain, thank you for being here. I really appreciate your input.
Thank you.